ABC4 News at 5.
Good evening, I'm Kim Fischer.
And I'm Don Hudson. Right now on ABC4 News at 5. A judge has cleared the way for the voyeurism trial against Steve Powell, the father-in-law of missing Utah mother Susan Powell. Earlier today, a judge up in Washington State rejected Powell's motion to try to suppress evidence in his case. That evidence, according to police, was seized from Powell's home last summer. It includes thousands of images of girls and women being videotaped without their knowledge, without their consent. Some of those pictures, by the way, happen to be of Susan Powell. And in one case, the girls are as young as 8 years of age. ABC4's Marcos Ortiz is taking a closer look at this ruling, especially what the judge had to say today. Marcos, any concern here?
Well, there is, and it's leading to something new in this case. Could there be cause for a change in venue?
These comments sure don't help the situation.
Out of line or skirting the legal bounds? That's what some legal minds are saying about Judge Ronald Culpepper of Washington. He ruled damaging evidence in Steve Powell's upcoming trial can be used. But we've learned that it's what he said that's raising eyebrows. Example, Judge Culpepper says it's, quote, very reasonable to infer that Josh and Stephen discussed the disappearance of Susan. Or this quote, there's a lot of good reason he was a suspect. And finally, this very reasonable inference that Josh was involved in Susan's disappearance.
Comments from a judge that tend to indicate the judge's feelings clearly do not aid in the recruiting of an impartial jury.
And we've learned it could even force the trial to move elsewhere. But when I showed the comments by the judge to a trial attorney, he tells me this case isn't about Josh Powell.
He isn't charged in the disappearance of Susan Powell, so those comments would be damaging for that case, but he's not charged with that case.
Now, what attorneys are telling me is this, is that Steve Powell, because of the ruling, could now perhaps be looking at a plea bargain. And I learned just before news time that he will be back in court tomorrow. If there's any talk, it may surface tomorrow. We'll let you know what happens. At the Digital Operations Center, Marcos Ortiz, ABC4 News.
Fighting for his life. A South Salt Lake man is in the hospital tonight after he was trapped inside his mobile home as it exploded. He now has burns over 50% of his body. That blast happened early this morning at 3300 South 100 West. His entire neighborhood was rattled by the blast. ABC4's Emily Clark shows us where that man's home once stood and what investigators believe may have been the problem.
Caution tape still up, keeping us away from the mobile home as investigators try to figure out what happened. What they do know, there was an explosion and a man was burned on nearly 50% of his body. Paramedics take away a man burned after his mobile home explodes around him.
He was all cinched to heck. He was kind of burned.
Walls collapse and the man's belongings are thrown everywhere. The explosion rocked this entire mobile home park. An unexpected and definitely unwanted start to the morning.
Watching the news and having a cup of coffee, then all of a sudden I heard this explosion and wow, I jumped up and it shook the whole trailer.
Including Karen's home, right next door to the explosion.
Blew all my drawers out of my trailer and everything off my shelves, just threw out on the floor.
As soon as neighbors realized there was a problem, they got to work.
I come running out, seeing what happened. I jump in his trailer and there was still fire going.
Extinguishing a small fire and then helping their neighbor.
He seemed to have a lot of burns and cuts on him, but he was walking around.
The next concern, what happened?
It got to be propane.
While we figure out the definite answer to that question, we do know if it weren't for two people in this mobile home park, the problem could have been much bigger.
They more or less saved the day.
You can see the man's watch laying on this wall that used to be upright. A complete disaster from this explosion, all because of a propane leak. Sending out a warning to everyone, if you are using propane, be very careful. In South Salt Lake, Emily Clark, ABC4 News.
Developing news out of Utah County now. Rescue crews have rescued an injured hiker off the mountain in American Fork Canyon. They brought him to a parking lot near Timpanogos Cave. The hiker fell, but we don't know how far or how bad his injuries are. Paramedics had to airlift him to a local hospital.
To Magna now, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill saying 2 officers were justified in a shooting that killed a 15-year-old teen last month. Now, the officers, Brian Todd, Brian Matson, opened fire on Sean Morrison after he shot at police first. Morrison left his home with a gun, a ski mask, and a bulletproof vest on. His mother says he was distraught. over allegations his father had abused his sister.
A dispute over roads could threaten wildlife and some national parks here in Utah. That's according to the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance. Now, Associate Director Heidi McIntosh says the state is trying to take control of 45,000 miles of road. That pavement is currently managed by the federal government or private landowners. Back in December, Governor Gary Herbert announced plans that the state wants to file a lawsuit over more than 18,000 roads.
All right, turning to weather now. Another picture-perfect day. We're enjoying blue skies, enjoying some sunshine. This is video from Four Lakes Golf Course, by the way, out on Redwood Road. People out there soaking up the rays, getting in some swings, dropping some putts. Chief Meteorologist Jim Kosick joins us now. Now, Jim, we're interested in two numbers. First, your handicap, since we're talking about golf, and second, the current temperature.
16's the handicap. Temperature's 86 degrees, Don.
It's a hot one.
So yeah, I'm a bit of a hacker, but yeah, it all really comes down to the putting game. I stink at that, much like that guy missed a 5-footer. I'd miss a 2-footer. Nonetheless, beautiful weather to be out on the links anywhere. Look at this. There's hardly any clouds. Holy cow. And when you look at what's cooking, at least as far as temperatures, 85 degrees. We're off the daytime high of 86 in Salt Lake. Ogden, Provo, 82. Little bit of a gusty breeze. About 15 to 25 miles per hour until the sun goes down. Once that happens, well, last night, this morning was the warmest night of the year. We're still in that same camp, but with the wind diminishing, the clouds are rolling in. Shouldn't be too bad, but for me, it's another window wide open night to help you sleep. Maybe a fan, something. Clouds will win out over the mountain of sunshine tomorrow. I still think it's a rain-free day along the Wasatch Front, but down the road in Dixie, as we encroach upon, say, 4, 5, 6 p.m., there is the risk of a shower. Ooh, a rumble-rama? Yeah. That and how much rain we're expecting, all coming up in a bit.
All right, thank you. Perfect weather for a Jazz game. The Utah Jazz are getting ready for their biggest game of the season tonight, and so are their fans.
As ABC4's Emerson Latzia found out, Jazz Nation has been waiting a long time for a night just like this.
From the ticket windows to the team store, fans are all over the place gearing up for Utah's big game tonight against the Suns. Missing the playoffs is something this fan base isn't very used to. Last season, the Jazz did not make the postseason for just the 4th time in 28 years.
It broke my heart that we didn't make it. We're in the postseason every year, so for us not to make it last year was a bummer.
See, I got my wristbands on for the three-point shot, and it's got to go drop, and I'm so elated, and I think the fans in this city are going to be the same way.
Well, a win tonight over Phoenix, and the Jazz will return to the playoffs.
Yeah. Against Phoenix, kind of decides who's going to the playoffs, who's not.
Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah, not at all. Well, actually, it is a big deal because they're about to go to the playoffs or go home. I mean, this is a playoff game.
And it'll definitely feel like a playoff atmosphere inside Energy Solutions Arena tonight. If you're going, bring your earplugs. You ever been to a game here at ESA?
No, first time in Salt Lake City.
Good luck, man. That place gets loud.
I bet. I bet it's going to be crazy.
I'm jazzed out, dude. And this tonight's game, it comes on at 8:30, right?
Yeah, it's a late one. Dude.
So everybody gets to watch us.
Until then, I don't know. What do you guys think? It fit me pretty well. Only thing missing is Latzia. One day, right? In Salt Lake City, Emerson Latzia, ABC4 News.
Keep on dreaming there, Latzia. If the Jazz can pull off a win tonight, they'll most likely face the San Antonio Spurs in the first round of the playoffs. Good luck, guys. That starts on Saturday. All right, coming up, the first criminal charges have been filed against the oil giant BP. Find out who's in the hot seat for that massive spill in the Gulf of Mexico.
Plus, Darcy the cow makes a mad dash for freedom. She escapes her farm and hoofs it a mile and a half into town. You won't believe where she ended up when we come back.
Tomorrow on Good Morning Utah, Flirty Girl Fitness is in our studio, and she is talking about long bike rides. The Tour de Cure is coming up, and she's going to give us some tips on how to get through it.
Fantastic. NFL Hall of Famer Dan Marino. You remember him? Well, he's going to be with us tomorrow morning. He's going to talk about his relationship with AARP. Yeah, it's that time. It happens. We're going to have that and more tomorrow morning on Good Morning Utah. We'll see you then.
You're watching ABC4 News in high definition.
I want to let you know that the first criminal charges have been filed against oil giant BP in connection with that explosion and massive oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico just over 2 years ago.
Engineer Kurt Mix is being charged with obstruction of justice. He's accused of deleting text messages after that spill relating to the amount of oil that gushed into the Gulf. As ABC's Karen Travers explains, more charges are expected.
Just over 2 years after the devastating oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, the first criminal charges have been filed. Kurt Mix, a former BP engineer, was arrested today on 2 counts of obstructing justice. He's accused of intentionally deleting more than 300 text messages that showed that some officials at BP knew the massive amount of oil that was gushing into the Gulf, but lied to the public about it. The government says that in a text message to a supervisor from May 2010, Kurt Mix estimated that 15,000 barrels of oil per day were leaking, not the 5,000 the company was saying publicly. The Justice Department said Mix later deleted this text. In February, Attorney General Eric Holder vowed to bring BP officials to justice.
People and organizations have to be held accountable, responsible for the lives that were disrupted, the economic harm that was inflicted upon people who were simply innocent.
BP has kept up a massive public relations campaign to repair its tarnished image.
When BP made a commitment to the Gulf, we knew it would take time, but we were determined to see it through.
The company claims it spent $8.3 billion to lessen the impact of the spill.
We feel confident that we're putting the right resources in place to continue to meet the challenges.
BP would not comment on the charges against Kurt Mix, but the company said in a statement it's cooperating with the Justice Department on all investigations into the spill. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
You know, Botox is used to smooth out your wrinkles. It's also been used to ease pain from migraines. The question is, does it really work? We'll find out next.
Plus, whipping winds and torrential rain. Mother Nature unleashes her fury in the Northeast. We're surveying the damage. Botox may work wonders for your wrinkles, right, Don? But a new study reveals it can help your migraines, too.
I don't know how I got dragged into that. All right, there was a study done on 5,000 patients. And new at 5, ABC4's Kylie Conway is in the studio with this story. And Kylie, what does this really mean from those, not about the lines, but those suffering migraines?
You both look fabulous, by the way.
Yes.
But I do need to clear the air about this. The study found Botox offers small to modest benefits, but that may be enough for some people to give it a try.
Relief may be possible for migraine sufferers who don't know where to turn.
My sister has really bad migraine, so I know it's pretty miserable. So anything to help with that, I think, is a good thing to do.
Researchers at the Medical College of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, reviewed the results of 27 studies. They found it helps people dealing with a certain kind of headache.
Botox works for people that have chronic migraine. Chronic migraine is defined by the FDA as headache at least 15 days a month, at least 4 hours per day. That means daily or near daily headache.
They found Botox does not appear to help the frequency of episodic headache or chronic tension type headache. Dr. Tepper says if you're battling headaches on a daily basis, you should talk to your doctor about Botox.
The great news for patients with chronic migraine is that we have a drug that's proven to be effective and actually is FDA approved for it in a protocol that we can administer safely.
The treatment consists of an injection in the back of the head and upper neck.
This sounds like something that might help you. We do have a lot more information about this study. Just go to abc4.com, click on the orange box. In the studio, Kylie Conway, ABC4 News.
All right, thanks, Kylie. Video Nation now at 5. An unexpected storm system pounds the Northeast, destroying homes, uprooting trees, and flipping cars. Take a look at the damage here in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. Strong winds toppled this massive tree right onto a house. Gas lines were also ripped up from the ground, and fortunately, not unfortunately, no one was hurt. All right, from weather in the Northeast to weather in the South, gusty winds in Atlanta caused some major damage. Emergency crews had to rescue 2 people from a car after a tree came crashing down on it. A section of road was also shut down for 8 hours after a large tree fell, snapping a power pole and leaving a hot wire across the road. No one was injured in this wicked weather either.
Let's go to Denver, Colorado, shall we? A cow named Darcy makes a dash for freedom. Her destination, a McDonald's. Not a very wise choice.
Oh, no.
She escaped from the farm, hoofed it all the way down to the drive-through window. obviously not able to place an order. But there she is. Look, she's in the drive-thru window. Employees called the owner and they said, hey,
angry.
Come get her. They wrangled her and took her home. She was then asked by the local media what she had to say, and she said, eat more chicken. And that's a wrap for Video Nation at 5.
Perfect day to eat more ice cream today. Man, it's a scorcher out there.
It is. You got to get your coffee somehow. You drink the iced version of it. It is hot outside, but we're at the peak and we're slowly coming down the hill. Once we start to gain momentum Thursday into Friday, we rush down that hill. So we're jumping from the 80s into the 50s for a high temperature, and talk about averages being the product of extremes. We're going from the high extreme to the low extreme. Somewhere in between. We'll eventually meet again next week. Let's check out the numbers. South Ogden, latest shot. Woo, pretty sky, that's for sure. Wet weather? Nah. Some of the northwest desert's getting a little thunder shower, but that's the exception to the rule. 86 degrees, hot air being the rule, was the high temperature for the day. We're now 85 degrees, just a little bit of a gusty breeze. 80 up the road, Logan, 84 Wendover. 78 degrees across the border into Elko. Rock Springs even picking up some of the warmth, but Hanksville, one of the warm spots, in at 91 big ones. High pressure's in, a little bit of moisture trapped underneath it, so with the heating, we're starting to see some of the pop-up thunder showers, mostly Nevada on across the northwest deserts. Tale of two storm systems, if you will. Storm system number 1, right there. Oh boy, that was terrible, wasn't it? Let's try that one again. Storm number 1, storm number 8. Hey, you know what? Even in 6th grade art class, they said I had no potential way back then. But anywho, storm system number 1 is running across the southeast part of the state as we head on into the Thursday time frame. Storm number 2 is going to come across the north and stall right here over northern portions of the state as we head into this upcoming weekend. And therein lies the problem for an extended bout of precipitation. Maybe not a lot, but hey, not just national, state parks are free baramas. Yeah, it's a play on barometer for the next several days on into this upcoming weekend. But tomorrow, do keep in mind that some of them could have a late day thunder shower, so early and often to enjoy some of Utah's finest. And talk about the finest. First time I was driving west, about 95 miles west of Salt Lake in the Bonneville Salt Flats, I run across this bad boy. Charles took an awesome shot of it. That is the Tree of Utah, otherwise known as the Tree of Life. It stands 87 feet tall, and yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere, but check it out, if you will. And you see something this good, shoot it, send it, pics at abc4.com. Let's talk about what we're dealing with tomorrow. Still a warm day, but we're taking the edge off. Why? More clouds, then sunshine. Not an overcast day, but still awfully warm and still very limited precipitation. So the end result, most places having to wait until Wednesday night or Thursday to get wet. Thursday being the wettest time frame right along the Wasatch Front. So notice the big drop off in terms of temperatures. Friday, Part 2, that second storm system coming away from Alaska, the Bering Sea, may lend toward a shower or two across the northern part of the state. Not a soaker, but it's only 56 degrees. And even this weekend, as the storm stalls, there could be a pop-up afternoon shower, but the balance of the weekend, at least 85% of it is partly sunny and dry. But 100% of it is Chilean. Temperatures warming next week to the 60s and the 70s. Maybe a pop-up afternoon thunderstorm over St. George tomorrow. Isolated severe weather, not out of the realm of possibilities, but most of the action's Wednesday night and Thursday. After that, nah. That Alaskan storm stalls so far to the north, I think we're going to stay dry. It may not be bright this weekend, I'll call it partly sunny, but still on a dry, gusty breeze note. Meanwhile, over the road toward the Cache Valley, yeah, clouds are in during the course of tomorrow, but wet weather, I'm not going to rule it out briefly tomorrow afternoon, but Thursday, that's the name of the game. Some more showers on Friday. Hit-miss action during the afternoon hours on this upcoming weekend. Uinta Basin may not see a whole heck of a lot in terms of wet weather. Especially true Thursday is the wettest time frame, then just hit-miss action this upcoming weekend. So do me a favor, take advantage of this stuff. Sure, it's cool, but it's not a soaker this upcoming weekend. So national parks, state parks, they are all for free. And one thing that I want to mention, Friday night into Saturday morning, even though it's not going to clear out, if it's partly cloudy for an extended period of time during the nighttime hours into Saturday morning, farmers beware, because it could get cold enough for a little bit of frost.
Oh, no.
That's only across the extreme northern toward the Idaho border.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so when you think of Salt Lake City, do you think of it as hip, Well, according to Travel Leisure, it isn't. Salt Lake City ranked last for its live music and near the bottom for its list of beer culture.
Oh, but there's some good news. Salt Lake is credited for being affordable, quiet, and clean. So what U.S. cities are ranked as top spots for being hip? Drum roll, please. Coming in at number 1, Seattle, followed by Portland, and then San Francisco. So apparently the West Coast is so much hipper than us.
We're so close to them, though. We should get some hipness just by default.
It's true.
We'll be back with weather.
Hump Day festivities are off and running tomorrow. Don't get left behind. While clouds may win out over the amount of sunshine, it's still a warm day. Yeah, we'll get close to 80 degrees and the record's 84. So, I mean, that's no slouch, that's for sure. And we're probably rain-free. The only spots that are going to talk about an afternoon or evening thunder shower down the road in Dixie, I highly suspect that we're going to have to wait until sometime tomorrow night, or better yet, even as we head on in through Thursday to talk about more showers and thunderstorms. So big drop-off in the temperature department after tomorrow.
After tomorrow. So we got to enjoy it through the weekend, though.
Absolutely.
And if you put down fertilizer, you want it to rain here in a few days.
This is true. Yeah, you don't want it to rain the very first day.
Right.
So
not for 24 hours. So we're looking at the bright side.
It's all good.
And there were tons of people out hiking. It was an inspiration for me. I sat and watched with my...
And the golfers, they love it, that's for sure. We are slowly running out of time. World News is coming up next, and Kylie and I will be back with news stories for you at 6 o'clock.
But remember, we are always working for you online, bringing you the latest stuff. Go to our website, ABC4. You like that? ABC4.com.
I'm a big fan of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff's
I like
good.
stuff, too.
Real good.
New stuff.